Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Thursday, August 11th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, a handful of officers in Minnesota have landed a legal victory as a part of a new settlement. We're going to break that down for you. Meanwhile, opening statements began in the trial of the horrific photos that were taken at the crash site of Kobe Bryant and his daughter, Gigi. We're going to tell you some of what Vanessa Bryant was saying in court. Then an update on the model who fatally stabbed her boyfriend, the charges she's facing ahead.
Plus, we are unofficially in a recession, but we can still find ways to save money. We'll check in with the banker for tips on that. And Nipsey Hussle will finally get his star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. We have all of that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. We start today with news on President Biden and his increase in approval ratings. His overall approval rating has edged up 2% to 40. It's nothing dramatic, but an increase is good news for any president who has been plagued by low approval ratings for the last year. Now, the increase comes as the president has had a good couple of weeks. The Democrats have passed bills including the law that extends disability benefits to military veterans. His improvement came mostly from Democratic voters. It went up 9 percentage points with Democrats to 78%. In the last year, Biden's approval rating, it was as low as 36%. No, the president is riding high right about now, which, is good news for Democrats riding into the midterm elections. It was a little touch and go a couple weeks ago after he tested positive for COVID and then tested positive for COVID again. We weren't sure, he wasn't able to get out and get his message across. But, now, again, major bills, the veterans, that act is going to boost the bills for sick veterans. Computer chip makers, he just passed a bill on that. There's historic job growth right now. Gas prices are finally falling, and the expansion of NATO, and then the Al-Qaeda killer guy that he just caught. I cannot remember his name, but we cover that here. And the House is scheduled to vote tomorrow on the economic package Friday, which is tomorrow. So we'll see what happens with that. But all of those are wins for Biden right now. And so that's some good news, especially when, we've had some bad news with what was going on with the Supreme Court and all of those cases. So hopefully this will carry on a few more months and we'll ride a blue wave into the midterm elections.
I also think that it's a win for him because Donald Trump is finally going down. So we're going to see Joe Biden's ratings go up. As we say, things go up, some things go down at the same time. That's the way of life. And so I think because Trump is finally going down, we're finally seeing his day in court. It feels like it might be sooner than we think. I think also people are like, hey, you know what? Why not? We won't have Trump. We don't have many options. We might as well give Joe Biden a chance.
Well, we would definitely see it. There's one article that said Joe Biden is on fire, signing bills and killing terrorists, but he still can't catch a break. When I read that, I was like, I kind of get it. He has got some things crossed. He got those things signed, so that's a good thing. But we're still talking about George Floyd Policing Act, right? Voters' rights. We're still discussing that. Roe v. Wade, with that situation that's been going down, kind of plays in his favor. That's how I look at it, because you have a lot of Democrats that are against what they're trying to do. So, real life is kind of like a reality show. We have our ups and downs. Then as we get closer to midterms, you can see his numbers go back up, which will let Democrats maybe feel more comfortable about the election season coming up.
Yeah, the one thing no one wants more is to save money. So with inflation going down, I'm sure Joe Biden's ratings have gone up.
Like that.
The White House is assuring African Americans they will not be left behind in President Biden's bill to reduce inflation, like we're talking about here, soulmates. The soon-to-be passed by Congress Inflation Reduction Act is aimed to lower prices for health care and energy costs for millions of Americans. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says that Mr. Biden has always worked to make the bill economically fair for everyone. Jean-Pierre says the Biden administration wants to make sure no communities are left behind. The Senate recently passed the bill, and now it heads to the House for approval.
Uvalde, Texas School District is looking for an interim police chief. This as Chief Pete Arredondo has been placed on unpaid leave. Arredondo is awaiting a termination hearing. He was in command during the massacre that took the lives of 19 students and 2 teachers at the Robb Elementary School last month. The news comes as students in the town prepare to go back to school. The 550 Robb Elementary School students and staff will be moved to other schools in Uvalde. Robb Elementary is slated to be torn down and rebuilt.
And former President Donald Trump taking the fifth and refusing to answer questions from New York State Attorney General Letitia James. Now, James is conducting a probe into whether the Trump organization inflated the value of his company's real estate to get favorable loans. The probe is also looking into whether the company understated assets to get tax breaks. Now, Trump's refusal to answer questions during the deposition is in stark contrast to a comment he made years ago. The former president once said, quote, "If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?"
And an anti-Trump GOP group is helping Raphael Warnock in his battle to keep his Senate seat in Georgia.
Do you think you know Herschel Walker? Well, think again. Listen to what his ex-wife had to say about him.
His eyes would become very evil. The guns and knives. I got into a few choking things with him. The first time he held the gun to my head, he held the gun to my temple and said he was going to blow my brains out.
The Republican accountability package, what we're looking at here, is spending $1 million in new ads against Republican Senate hopeful Herschel Walker. It's a part of a $10 million initiative by the group to be what they called anti-democratic Republican in key battleground states. A spokesperson for the group says that Walker may have had a great football career, but he doesn't deserve to be a U.S. senator. This is the nasty part of politics that honestly, just it's the natural wave of what is expected when it comes down to 2 people battling it out in a place like this. And so I think the $10 million is a lot of money to put towards ads. I do believe that Herschel Walker is going to come back with some type of ad that he's going to go against Raphael Warnock, but I don't know if there's going to be anyone that puts $10 million towards Herschel Walker and a rebuttal, because $10 million really says that we believe in you. What you say is true. When you go up against Raphael Warnock, you're going to win. I think that this PAC putting $10 million to Raphael Warnock is a signal that we believe he is going to go all the way through and win.
Yeah, I think you made some good points there. This is a Republican PAC at that is going against the Republican nominee for Georgia senator. Yeah. So that tells you what you need to know. So they're saying, we don't believe you have what it takes. We're not necessarily endorsing Raphael Warnock, but we're not endorsing you. So take this. We're going to put some money behind this so that you don't win because we don't think you're fit. And so I think that speaks for itself. That's very, very strong that a Republican PAC is putting out ads against the Republican nominee in Georgia.
Herschel Walker, he comes across as a person that at some point might get in his feelings and he might just go vocal. He'll say what he wants to say. So I wonder if he will react to this on his own or with leadership saying how he feels about the situation, and will he really put up a fight? Because what we've seen from him so far is like, this guy is not the guy for the job for sure, right?
Yeah, Romeo, absolutely. I think that Herschel Walker has led his entire campaign not tactfully. His entire campaign has been to see how I can get a rise out of people. He loves stuff like this. So I believe that he is going to respond to it, but nothing that he does has been tactful, in my opinion, and senator worthy.
This is going to be hard to respond to only because this is your own party coming out against you. So it's going to be difficult for him to find the right words to say in a rebuttal, because what do you say when your own Republican Party is putting out ads against you saying that you're not fit?
I mean, Republicans saying he was a good football player but not a good senator, that's honestly the most important part of all this.
Yeah, well, that sums it up right there. Okay, 8 non-white correction officers in Minnesota will be awarded $1.5 million as part of a settlement. The officers filed a racial discrimination suit against Ramsey County Jail Superintendent barred officers of color from walking on the floor where the killer of George Floyd was being held. The suit alleges Derek Chauvin received special treatment from a white lieutenant One of the non-white officers said he once saw a white co-worker comfort Chauvin by patting him on the back. The lawsuit says the superintendent's actions segregated the officers of color and prevented them from doing their jobs because of their skin color. Look, you know, I grew up in a community that's very diverse. Okay, that's where I'm at. Friends all over the world that all different races.
Right.
I'm stumbling because they're suing for $11 million because they were not allowed to do their job. Something they were hired to do, they're trained to do. They do it each and every day. Yet when it comes to a police officer that killed a black man in broad daylight on the street, white privilege kid still goes behind the bars and they walk this man and comfort this man and not allow anyone else to do their job. Now, this $11 million, I always come back and say, who's going to have to pay that, right? Is it the lieutenant? He's not going to have to pay that. But as an officer, how do you feel when you're not allowed to do your job only because this man is white and you understand what danger he may be in? Anyone go behind the bars, they're in danger, right?
Right. I think it was 1.5 million, but still, to your point,
I'm sorry, yeah,
1.5,
yes.
but still, it is, he was receiving better treatment than George Floyd received in jail. So I remember when the story first came out and the officers were saying that they weren't allowed to guard a prisoner.
Yeah.
They're just, as you pointed out, just trying to do their job, and they were told that they weren't even allowed on the floor. So I'm glad that they sued. I hadn't heard anything else about it, but I'm glad that they sued, and they should get every penny because they were being discriminated against instead of the man being behind bars and serving his time. It's so ironic how in that same situation we're seeing white privilege still win when he should have been in jail serving time for what he did.
You know, the separate floor thing, I remember exactly when this came out as well, because the most interesting part about this is that they said that he was a liability handling Derek Chauvin. They said he was a liability, and so I remember black people being irate. I was one of those black people that were irate about this because how am I a liability? What do you think is going to happen? What are you afraid that's going to happen? Well, what are you afraid is going to happen is that we're going to be so enraged that this white man took the life of a black man that we were going to retaliate. What do you think that we were going to do? Yeah. And so that's why they moved them from the other floor. And I'm really happy that they came together. I always say, you guys know, I'm always terrified of going against the grain and lawsuits and putting video camera footage. But I'm so happy that these eight officers were brave enough to get together, stand up, because sometimes when you want to sue someone, you don't even know if you have a good enough case, right? Yeah. And so for them to feel like, hey, we have something here and we're going to sue, go through with it, and then win, I mean, victory, if you ask me.
Definitely a victory. All right, the invasion of privacy trial against the Los Angeles Sheriff and Fire Departments, it's in its second day of arguments. Now, Kobe Bryant's widow, Vanessa Bryant, is suing both departments, saying they took photos of the helicopter crash scene not for investigative purposes, but to show their friends and colleagues. In opening remarks yesterday, Bryant's lawyers told jurors, deputies and fire captains, they used the photos for visual gossip and for a laugh. Now, Bryant is suing for an unspecified amount back in January of 2020. As you may remember, soulmates, her late husband and 13-year-old daughter, Gigi, and others died in a helicopter after it slammed into a hill. Now, the county has paid $2.5 million to settle a similar case to two other families who also lost their loved ones in that crash. This is so unfortunate that they even have to go to court to keep these photos from being made public. And I think Vanessa's main argument has been she does not want her kids to be scrolling the internet and seeing these photos. There is surveillance video of, I think it was one of the deputies inside of a bar, and he was showing the bartender the photos. And then there's another surveillance video of a group of deputies together laughing. And to laugh and to think this is funny and to take these photos, not only should they lose their job, but they should also, she has every right to get a settlement from this. This is not part of your job. And this is still someone's life. It doesn't matter how famous this man may be. She was crying in court. This is still her husband and her child that lost their life.
Her lawyer described the camera photos as pictures of broken bodies, close-ups of limbs, and burnt flesh. And there was a story of someone one of the officers or people that had the photos wanted to show their wife the photo, and the wife was like, I really don't want to see that. They're like, no, you really need to see it. It's literally like pieces of flesh. And so who in their right human mind, right, would even want to see that of someone who just died? Kobe Bryant, celebrity aside, who would want to see some pieces of a person's body, you know, just in photos is just the most insane part to me. But I must remind us, soulmates, that Governor Gavin Newsom in California did sign that bill 2 years ago called the Kobe Bryant Act, making it a crime for first responders to share photos of a dead person at a crime scene for purposes unrelated to the case, and that crime is punishable up to $1,000. So at least that was signed 2 years ago. But I mean, $1,000 is kind of like, you know, a person might take the $1,000 fine to still get that photo sent to someone.
Look, knowing Kobe and had a chance to work with him a few times, this whole thing just makes me sick. So I think you guys definitely covered it. I'm good.
One last thing too. I think the Vanessa's attorney, one of his main sticking points is that the sheriff's department, they did not do their due diligence and make sure that these photos aren't still on the officer's phone. So basically what he did was they told him to conduct a thorough investigation. They did not conduct a thorough investigation like forensics and things like that. And so they're suing, saying, how do you know that there are no copies still out there? And so that's the basis for what they're suing for right now.
This is be ongoing, soulmates, and we'll give you more on that. An IG Fans model is facing murder charges after the fatal stabbing of her boyfriend back in April. 25-year-old Courtney Cox is accused of killing Christian Obumseli in their Miami apartment. The model, who has over 2 million followers on Instagram, allegedly stabbed her boyfriend in the chest following a fight in their luxury apartment. Her attorney says that Cox had been in a rehab facility in Hawaii for substance abuse and post-traumatic disorder when she was arrested by police. We don't... The followers will not keep you from serving time in jail. Also, substance abuse in Hawaii will not keep you from serving time in jail. At the end of the day, you took the life of a black man, of a human being, of your boyfriend that you claim to love. So, you know, substance abuse is, you know, what is it? Substance abuse, post-traumatic.
Yeah, I think she was there.
They're trying to say self-defense.
Yeah, she was having a mental breakdown, and so she was in Hawaii getting treatment. I think that's what they're trying to say. Nevertheless, she should be arrested. She took someone's life. And so I'm glad. I don't know how many months it's been since this has happened, but you know, she definitely needs to face some sort of justice in this case. He deserves justice no matter what.
Agree.